Hey there, before we get started with the video, I want to say a couple things. First of all, thank you for clicking on the video. But second of all, I know that there have not been many reviews, and that's a product of the times. This winter has been pretty brutal in the Midwest with a lot more snow and rain, and cold temperatures preventing it from all evaporating away. So in the meantime, I want to show you what you can look forward to on the channel. 2024 revolvers. We have the Rogue ZM1s, which I talked about previously, but they're going to get a full review. I have the Valkyrie Mark IV slaloms, particularly with the redesigned rear track. Over here, I have a huge collection of Bear Gen 6, particularly with the new 30-degree rear base plate. I have the Seismic Deltas. Look at that, all big, all fresh. The most anticipated of the bunch, the Scythe trucks. These are the Reapers. I'm excited to review those. Those are getting pretty close to being ready to review. And I think that's everything, with more on the way. And all of this is made possible by the patrons. Wouldn't be able to do it without them. So thank you all so much. I hope you enjoy the video. Hey y'all, this is my review of the Trotta Pro Model wheels by Blood Orange. Blood Orange sent me these wheels for free, so as I always like to disclaim, I don't know if you can use that word that way. Disclaimer, when people get things for free, they might have a little bit of bias. I try as hard as I can to scrub any bias from my mind, from my body, from my soul, so I can give you the cold, hard facts. My true feelings and opinions, but regardless, there may be some implicit bias tucked away deep in there to say nice things about the person that gave them stuff for free. So even though I will try my hardest not to do that, it's important for you to be a conscious consumer and be skeptical when people get free things, that their opinions are completely unmarred, unadulterated by the gift they've been given. So let's get into it. I was pretty shocked when these wheels came out. I knew they were coming. Liam teased it to me after we stopped recording the roast video together, probably like back in October or something. He let me know Cole was getting a Pro Model wheel, but didn't give me any details. I just had to sit in my head and imagine, think on it. And I don't think I would have expected this. So we have two distinct shapes, with frankly the only similarities between them being they're the same goo, right? They're the same urethane. And then also they're square-lipped freeride wheels. Now, square-lipped was an interesting choice, but I think it makes a lot of sense. It was surprising in the sense that for so many years, we've been watching Trotta rip on round-lipped freeride wheels, smaller, slidier wheels through, all the Blood Orange stuff, and then even back further to the Powell Peralta days. He was always on that slidey stuff. And so to see a little bit beefier, a little bit larger square-lipped shape come out was shocking. And then also what was surprising is they took a very interesting route with this, which is these are pretty distinctly different molds. The mold that you pour the urethane into and then it cures in the shape of a wheel, these are absolutely different. And they've also been paired with different cores. It is just very surprising. On top of the surprises, the larger 74 millimeter version also has a smaller contact patch, 58 millimeters. And then the smaller 70 millimeter version has a slightly larger contact patch. It's a little hard to see now, and it's a little less exaggerated now that I've broken them in a bit. But yeah, 2 millimeters wider than this one. The surprises, they keep coming. But as I said in the Pantheon Meatballs review, the sliders and meatballs review, I was talking about the meatballs, that 73 millimeter shape. And I think that this is a great hole in the market for people to fill. I feel like we've seen so many like smaller, 70 millimeters and smaller, like slidey freeride wheels. Then we've seen a lot of the bigger, like plus 75 millimeter race wheels go off. And then also there's some like slidey big wheels in the mix too. I think that the market was ripe for this like 70 to 74 millimeter range to step in. And so I was pretty glad to see it. And I think it makes good financial sense. And hopefully it makes good performance sense for Cole Trotta, who goes fast and frankly scares me on some of the other wheels that he rides. Knowing how slidey they are, I'm like, how are you able to trust them that much? I mean, it's a testament to his prowess as a free rider, but listen, I'm glad that Cole's got a little bit more grip under his feet. He's got a little bit more lip under his feet. He's got a little bit more control, because by golly, he can use it, right? So even though they're square lips, they are still through and through free ride wheels, offering, pretty low resistance for a wheel of, this shape and profile. Really nice stand-up slides. I enjoyed myself doing stand-ups on them. We'll get into the feel a little bit later, actually, because what I want to talk about first is the durability and that 78A urethane that these are made with. These are supremely durable, perhaps more durable than any other wheel I've ever tried. I don't get it. You'll have to take my word for it that, after the skating that I've done on these, the fact that they've only worn down 1 millimeter is pretty shocking. This kind of makes me beg the question of like, what urethane is this? What is this 78A urethane? And when you look at the rest of the Blood Orange lineup, you're like, all right, 78A, what could that be? Maybe it's the 78A Drifts. Maybe it's the 78A Bangers. Maybe it's the same goo as one of those. And just on the simple fact of durability alone, I'm led to believe that this is the same formula as the Bangers. Now, nobody has confirmed or denied that for me, but I think it's pretty reasonable to come to that conclusion, especially because the Bangers are, they're a cheaper urethane. They're meant to be affordable and durable. And so, you increase the size of the wheel, the amount of volume of urethane goo you need to fill this out. The math kind of adds up that this would be the Bangers urethane. But I've skated the Bangers. Admittedly, not a ton. I skated them enough to do an overview on Instagram for Blood Orange. But it is really fascinating how all of the design elements of a wheel come together to give a distinctly, unique kind of feel and performance. Because from the feeling I had on these wheels, I don't know if I would have jumped to Bangers as being my first conclusion. They're pretty different, and speaks a lot to the fact that you can't just, look at one aspect of a wheel and say, well, any other wheel with that same aspect is probably going to feel the same, because they're all different. So urethane, really durable. Oh, I do want to point out, I did have one wheel experience a pretty significant amount of trauma. I don't know exactly when this happened, but I have a lot of reason to believe, a lot of evidence pointing towards it being one pretty catastrophic crash that I had this past weekend in Tennessee. I was fine from it. Honestly, miraculously, I should have been hurt. I feel like I get away with things a lot without getting injured for it. But yeah, pretty insane little crash. The board went flying, hit some stuff. I'm thinking that some sort of blunt force trauma to the wheel caused this. Hello, I'm Cole Trotta, and I'm losing my mind. Aside from this tear, these wheels have experienced no chunking at all. The lips are in perfect condition. The contact patch is pretty much in perfect condition, besides this one that probably hit a rock going really fast. It's really impressive. It's a really cool urethane. And honestly, race wheel manufacturers, I hope you're paying attention. Skating these, free riding these, I did it on primarily 2 different setups. Did it on my Cole Trotta deck, coincidentally enough, This looks pretty different because I wrapped it in carbon and did a weird job and had to do a bunch of art over it to hide all the ridges and ripples. I think it turned out really nice. And this is like my favorite board to do stand-up freeride on. Skated it with the Paris Savants, and lately I'm skating it on the Bear Gen 6. Hey, peep that 30 plate in the back, 50-30 split. Having a really fun time on the smallest wheelbase on this deck. Skated it on this, and then I also skated it on a little more modern freeride setup. The 2024 Rojas revolvers with my trusty custom Zenit. I'll be honest, I didn't skate this board with a weight. At least I didn't do any stand-up freeride with the weight. Still something I'm going to mess around with and experiment in the future. Most of my skating on this board has only ever been no weight. And I swapped the 70mm and the 74mm version around a couple times between those two setups just to really make sure I understood the differences between the two. And out the box, perhaps unsurprisingly, I like this one more. The stone ground finish on it, for those of you that don't know, stone grinding is a process to abrade the outer surface, the contact patch of a wheel before it gets into the hands of skaters, so that it kind of has that like broken in on a road feel, even when it comes out of the plastic. I love the way that these felt fresh. These came with skin. This, you know, that shiny surface you see on the outer lips of wheels went all the way around across the contact patch. Skin really wasn't too bad on these wheels. As most skin is, it was a little grippy, but I frankly felt like I had a pretty easy time breaking these in, even on like cold, salted Ohio pavement. Really didn't take me long to break in the 70mm, or I guess the 74mm version of this wheel. But at the start, I had the big wheel on the little modern board and the smaller wheel on the more traditional freeride setup. I was having a better time on this one. Fresh, like these feel really, really good. But eventually I, had the wherewithal to know that I should switch the two and make sure that any feelings I'm feeling that I'm trying to characterize as being unique to these wheels aren't just some emergent characteristic of the setup that they're on. Switched them around, and my new favorite became this one, and I think I'm ready to stick with that. That the 74mm version, to me, just felt a little bit more consistent. For my purposes and intentions and preferences, just suited me a little bit better. If you're a beginner and you're trying to learn your slides, this is the one you got to pick up. The 70mm version, it's just easier. It's broken in for you. It's a little smaller, a little slidier, and frankly, so durable that you don't have to be afraid of flat spotting these. Frankly, the way I've been skating, which is like trash, I should have flat spotted these by now, and I haven't. I've been putting them through hell with a lot of squat slide practice, and boy, do I like to 90 in squat slide attempts. I should have flat spotted these by now, and they haven't. So we love a durable wheel for that reason. Up here in Ohio, I was skating them at one spot in particular. Took them to a bunch of different spots, but one spot more than any other is like my testing grounds for wheels. And I noticed that at this spot, most wheels feel pretty good, but every now and then, some wheels are just like kind of stinkers. And it makes no sense because you'll go to another road and they'll feel great. But at this particular road, very, very smooth pavement. And in recent years, as it's broken in more, worn down more, the road, I mean, not the wheels, it's gotten more consistent. But I did notice like a little bit of inconsistency out of these wheels, just a little bit of unusual unpredictability and resistance, like very slight, very faint. When I got them out of that, very smooth, nice spot and onto some mountain roads down in Tennessee this past weekend, all of that went away. These were phenomenal, like such a nice, just buttery slide. Frankly, kind of felt like in the pavement, classic longboarder terms, in the pavement, on top of the pavement, things like that. My experience on the bangers would lead me to believe that they feel like they're on top of the pavement. You're not really feeling the road too much. They're kind of floating on the top surface. You're not getting a ton of feedback as the road changes. These, even if they are the same urethane as the bangers, definitely have a much more in the pavement type of slide feel, and are a little more consistent than the bangers. But again, I need to skate the bangers more. I'm overdue on doing that. Yeah, but I had a great time, especially on mountain roads with these wheels. Free riding never felt better than on the real steeps in Tennessee on these, even glove downs. Like, I skated a lot of spots that were just out of my league for a stand-up free ride. I'm not that consistent at stand-up free ride. And the majority of the time that I'm practicing it, I'm at really safe spots where I can go up and throw 1 or 2 big slides and then try again. Open road stand-up free ride is kind of a scary beast for me that I am trying to tame, but I need to tame smaller beasts before I tame the big ones. So I went to a handful of spots that were just burly, just gnarly. And I did all glove down at those spots just to be safe, to preserve my stamina, minimize risk of catastrophic injury or, collisions with vehicles. And I had such a good time going glove down on these wheels. Like, I've had a great time doing free ride on these wheels, but if you're a person that just likes to vibe, right? That just likes to do the glove down slides and have a nice smooth slide, take a decent line through a corner, but not wanting to, put your body through the torment of like shoving race wheels around. Like, what a nice option. I'm trying to think. One of my friends tried them this past weekend and he said, like, you know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of the like old Sector 9 race formula. The like square lip race forms, which to my knowledge, and I mean, I have a set of like round lipped race forms over there, 82A admittedly, so pretty, like, a lot harder than either of these. Seems like these might just be the new race forms. Like, the race forms are beloved wheels. Like, when people, are nostalgic about Sector 9 wheels of the past, race forms always come up in conversation. So if you're like, been in the scene for a minute, and been on the race forms and enjoyed them, or if you've been out of the scene for a while and are like, well, the race forms were good back in the day, but they're not made anymore. What can I get? Maybe try these out. Like, for somebody to compare these to race forms, like, that's a really high compliment. And one that I wish I could echo. I wish I had enough time on race forms, like the different shapes and the different urethanes, to be able to say with any confidence that that's true or not. But I also trust this guy's opinion. I think to kind of conclude how I feel about these wheels, they're sliding really nice. They have a lot of the characteristics of a square-lipped wheel, right? The kind of bite, the edge grip, and a modern freeride setup, little precise trucks, little board. The advantages of a modern freeride setup is that it gets more pressure into the lips. It makes the lips work harder. It gets them to squish down, engage in the road more, get more like force pressing them down in. And although it's not completely understood, we all kind of experience it, and a modern freeride setup will exaggerate how square lippy these wheels are, which for my intentions, for the way that I skate, I wasn't a huge fan of these wheels on the modern race board, but paired with a bigger board, some wider trucks, and some good vibes, like, I really enjoyed free riding these. Really nice slides. You got to watch out for the lip a little bit. At least in these, I think the lip is just a little bit better supported, got a little bit more stiffness to it. The smaller ones behave a little bit closer to a round-lipped freeride wheel. I think largely that's a characteristic of kind of how unsupported these lips are. Like, they're pretty thin, and I just feel like they kind of flex and they get out of the way. So If you're looking for a little bit easier of an experience sliding, not as much resistance, these are the ones to go. But if you want kind of the best overall feeling, the best performance at higher speeds, I think the 74 millimeter version is the way to go. This is probably the one I'm going to ride most in the future, or at least maybe I save these for the mountain roads and I skate these around Ohio at our like smaller but steeper spots where you're going slower but throwing some slides. These felt really at home on a really fast mountain run, and these felt more at home at a slide jam hill, if you know what I'm saying. So I had a really nice time on the Trottas by Blood Orange. They make sense in their product lineup. They make sense in the market today. And I'm extremely thrilled at how durable they are. Love to see durability, especially with wheel prices in general going the way that they're going. I think they're worth the money. I think they're worth checking out, testing out. And whether you're trying to rage some big fast free ride or you're trying to just vibe out with some glove downs, can't go wrong with either of these. And if you're a beginner, part of me says go for a slidier wheel, go for something else in the Blood Orange lineup, go for bangers, you know, or, you know, any number of other slidey wheels from other brands. But if you're looking at the Trotta wheels and you want to support him, he's your favorite rider, or it's just the company that's putting out the media that you resonate the most with, because I love buying products from companies that I like. If you're looking at these and you really want to skate them, the 70 millimeter version is going to be more suited to a beginner's learning curve and experience. Just with maybe a touch more lip and edge grip than I would typically recommend for a beginner skater. But, you know, I made do when I learned how to skate with a little bit of edge grip, a little bit of lip. So you can make do too. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you to Blood Orange for sending me these wheels. And as always, check out the Patreon if you want more content from me. Have some nice little rewards if you want to support me at a higher level. But most importantly, the stuff that's happening on Patreon is a lot of discussions. I mean, I think a lot of my patrons are going to be pretty familiar with a lot of the things I said in this video. Patreon is where I knock out the first reactions. I start to develop my reviews and opinions. I start to practice them. Of course, I save the best stuff always for the YouTube reviews. But Patreon, we get to talk about gear at a little more casual, a little less permanent level, if you know what I mean. Like, a lot less pressure over there, but a lot more variety of discussion. So check it out if you're interested. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.